7 o'clock on Monday, August 8th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, though, I'd ask everyone to stand as we salute the flag. I'd ask Councilor Cheney to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, our recording secretary is Katie Gargano. We have two people joining us via Zoom, two council members joining us via Zoom this evening, and they will be participating. I see Councilor Susie. Is Councilor Hamill coming on board? There he is. Okay, so I'd ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Councilor Cheney,
Here.
Councilor Susie,
Here.
Councilor Littman,
Present.
Councilor Haynes,
Here.
Councilor Hamill,
Bob, you're on mute.
Waiting on you, Councilor Hamill, if you can hear us.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, maybe we can go back to Councilor Susie, where he's participating remotely. He should say it wasn't reasonably practicable for him to be here and whether or not anybody else is with him.
Okay, Councilor Susie, I'm in Oak Island, North Carolina on vacation. There's nobody else with me. I'm in a room with closed doors.
Thank you.
Councilor Hamill? Councilor Hamill, can you hear us? Give me a head
I
shake.
can hear you now.
Very good.
There we go.
Joining us by Zoom, so you are present
Yep, and alone.
and alone at home, unable to join us because of a personal matter. Correct?
What's that?
Why can't you join us this evening? Is it a personal matter?
It is.
Thank you.
and Councilor Felch.
Here.
Yeah, Mayor Hosmer.
Also joined this evening by City Manager Scott Myers, as well as Glenn Smith, our Finance Director. Agenda number 7A. These are the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of June 20th, 2022. They were distributed to the City Council on July 18th with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Agenda item 7B, the minutes of the special City Council meeting of July 7th, 2022 were distributed to the City Council on July 8th, 2022 with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item 7C, minutes of the special City Council meeting of July 8th, 2022 were distributed to the City Council on July 11th, 2022, with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item number 7D, which is the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of July 11th, 2022, were distributed to the City Council on July 18th, 2022, and with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk. The minutes will be accepted as distributed. Moving along to item number 8, which is consent and action items. It's a temporary traffic order 2022-9 is attached for this year's Multicultural Festival. This is a recurring event. There are no changes to the temporary traffic order other than the dates from the last festival held in 2019. Organizers of the event are also requesting that all city fees associated with the event be waived. Special Events Review Committee approved the application in this year's Multicultural Festival at their meeting on July 6, 2022. Are we looking for a motion right now to move to approve temporary traffic order 2022-9 as presented for the Laconia Multicultural Festival and to waive all city fees associated with the event? So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion?
To take the roll call on this, correct?
Everything's roll call.
Seeing no other requests for comments or discussion.
On that item, Mayor, I just wanted to thank all the departments, especially fire, police, and Public Works and Parks and Rec for all the support they've been giving us. So
Thank you, Mr. Stamps.
Council, for your appropriation was really needed this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I'd ask the clerk, with no other questions or discussion, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here, yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving along to item number 9, which are citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. And item number 9A, which is Turnerway residents' comments on water supply matters. So as you walk up, come right up. I would like you to introduce yourself. Perhaps your address would be helpful. I would like comments this evening to be 3 minutes or less. And is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also just so everyone can have an opportunity to speak and we can do this in a timely fashion, I'd ask that you not repeat yourselves what someone else may have just said. If you want to add new information, certainly you're welcome to do that, or just express your inclination on this matter. So go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. Hi, I want to thank everybody for letting us be here tonight. My name is Chris Weinman. I live at 328 Turner Way up in Laconia. I'm the president of the Windermere Ridge Homeowners Association. We have a water problem up at Windermere Ridge. I got to give a brief history. Windermere Ridge is a development bordered to the north by Windermere Heights, to the south by Paugus Bay State Forest. It's a 31 lot development. There was water issues when this was created back in 2004. The city planning board mandated that a community water system be built because neighbors were concerned about their water and their water supply. Initially, the wells met the standards that DES lays out. So many gallons per so many bedrooms, 16,000 gallons a day is the capacity that DES says we need to have. Initially, it was met, but with homes being added to the system, with a drought, we're down to 3 gallons a minute in our water system right now. We're trying to address this in multiple ways. We've engaged Emery and Garrett Water Investigation team up in Meredith. They've mapped out our system. Every lot has been sold. The developer is long gone. He has left us high and dry, literally. We are planning on putting in new wells. The problem is, to get one of these wells online might cost us between 100 and 200 grand with no obvious guarantee of any success. We need 10 gallons a minute. And to find that up there is difficult. We are on bedrock up there. We've also engaged Councilor Cheney and Councilor Susie. I have over the last year by email and discussions about potential of bringing city water to that neck of the woods. They have a broader picture of the situation than I do. There's a lot of advantages, which I know he's talked to you about in the past. We've engaged engineers that have been involved with this process over the years to talk about maybe getting a line from Southdown to our place directly. I've talked to Ben Crawford from the city water department, who says that that's not necessarily a good option for this situation. But what the ask is tonight is we're coming to you, me, my neighbors, to express the dire need of where we're at. We've got limited water resources right now. We don't have any guarantee of finding more water, even dumping a lot of dough into the situation. So, city water is our solution in one way or another. So what I guess the ask is tonight is to sit us down with the water department engineer, whoever needs to be in that discussion, maybe the Paugus Bay State Forest folks. I've engaged them and got a shutdown as far as being able to advance into the state forest to drill. We're trying to hit it on multiple ends. We've applied for a grant through the DES for an interconnecting water study, monies that are available through the state. we're doing our due diligence to try and fix our own problem. But every step we go ahead, we're finding that the solution is city water in one way or another. So that's the ask tonight, to start a conversation, because we're stuck. You know, we've invested, there's 21 homes right now, 2 are being built, will come online in the fall. There's 9 more lots available. City Planning Department says those are lots that we have to give building permits to, because they're city lots that have been approved. You know, more houses on our system is untenable. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of?
If I may, I've spoken as the doctor has suggested. He's told you about the dire nature of the water, but I want to re-emphasize for everybody that they have made efforts beyond just asking for another drill or whatever. Assuming for the moment, Doctor, that the city said we're willing to start the process of adding water to the top of the hill, which is a discussion you and I have had. Are you willing to, are you and the folks who live there willing to help, instead of paying a couple $100,000 to drill holes, to put some of that money into getting the water to where you need it? And I think you have a central tank.
Correct. We have 220, so we have 20,000 gallon storage capacity. Our wells pump into that. So, you know, the engineer had suggested you could put a 10-inch pipe into that, meter it right from there, and we would be made whole. You know, yes, I think we would all say, you know, so much per lot towards guaranteed water, we'd all sign up tomorrow, because this has been a nightmare over this last 2 years, dealing with the inadequacies of our supply. So if the city came to us and said, it's going to cost you this, we would all, I think, sign on the dotted line, you know, within reason, obviously. I'm not, but my point is, people are willing to spend X amount to put a well system in. And, you know, if we could have a guaranteed source of income, or a source of water production, you know, we would be over the moon for that.
Can you, I'm sorry, you finished?
No, I would like to make one comment, and that is, this council knows that I've brought this subject up before. I'm a little hard pressed to understand how in Laconia, with that lake sitting up there, we can be hard pressed to get these folks some water. I know it's going to cost money. They're willing to help. I hope we can have a conversation, as the doctors suggested, and perhaps move in the direction of getting them some water sooner rather than later.
Doctor, with the current condition, can you give us some sense what it's like, the impact it has on you and your household when you go to use water? I mean, when you turn the water on, does the water come out?
Yes, right.
What's the flow like and the quality and things like that?
So our quality of water has always been good. We haven't had an issue with quality. We are currently pumping through the system between 21 and 2,400 gallons a day. That means for the 21 homes, it's about 100 gallons a day. We limit, you know, outside usage to, you know, some potted plants. We're not watering, doing any irrigation. We're not washing cars. You know, we're severely limiting. We have had water challenges, meaning we've been out of water because we're overtaxing our pumps. These pumps, you know, one is 1,500 feet deep. The other, the other is 1,000 feet deep. These pumps are cycling very frequently because we never catch up. We're always just maintaining. So we've had, you know, DES violations because we've had to have water delivery, especially during the summer months. You know, we've had some breakage in the lines and this and that, which required us to have some water issues, but that's not a supply issue. That was a structural issue. So that's our main issue. And the problem is 2,400 gallons spread between 31 lots instead of 21 is going to be very thin.
All right. Thanks. Go right ahead.
In terms of the engineering things that you've looked at, and I thought I heard heard you, you have cisterns kind of that are available to hold 20,000 gallons. Have you looked at trucking in regularly to fill the cisterns, and what does that look like?
So DES doesn't like that as a solution for a community water system. On an emergency basis, they'll accept that, but we brought that up to them recently because, you know, we said, well, why don't we just spend 10 grand a year and have 6,000 gallons delivered every so often? It's not a solution for long term. DES doesn't like that as an option. Am I wrong on that, right?
No,
Okay.
you're right on that. Too much chance for cross contamination. So,
Our fear too is in the winter, we had a line breakage in the middle of January. We were out of water for 6 days up there. We fixed the problem, but we couldn't get water delivery because it was too cold. The trucks won't run because the tanks freeze. So, you know, so that isn't a good solution going forward.
Thank you. I'm sorry to hear that too. It's
Yeah.
terrible. Okay. Thanks. Any other questions?
Again, we appreciate the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So anybody else like to speak to this matter? Hello.
Hi, I'm Rob Baldick, 432 Turnaway, and I've been there since about 2007, and I've had I'm on the board. I've had a lot of experience in the beginning because of problems with pumps and wells, and which Chris didn't touch on too much, which I wanted to touch on too, is the pumps. So when these wells fill up, we only have probably 80 feet of water above the pump. So they get down to 30 feet, it shuts off. So they overcycle and we burn pumps out to the tune of $7,000 a pump. So we've been through quite a few pumps, way more than normal. So this is another huge problem for us because every time a pump goes, $7 grand. So we've been through that, I think 4 times now. So, and right now we work with a company called Smith Pump, and he calls us up and he says, you need to shut your pumps down. They're cycling too much, which means we go on water delivery again, which alerts DES. So we have to shut down the pumps, get water filled. So we have no pump action for at least 5 days. We try to shut it down for, but with the usage and it drops down and we have to turn the pumps back on. So we don't get a break is kind of my point, where the wells never recover. We always keep working them to the point where we're burning like 50 feet of water in a 1,500 foot well. If you can picture that, it's just a lot of stress. And then another point Chris didn't talk about too much is our neighbors. So Turnaway, we're beside Windermere Heights, and we have neighbors around us. They of Hall had problems too, as in the city notes, which we got copies of. They were complaining that if we didn't have a community well source, they'd have well issues. And I know a lot of those people up there because they've drilled 2 and 3 wells to get a half gallon or a gallon a minute, and that's not even a lot to survive on. So they need that too, as well as on Meredith Center Road. I've talked to multiple residents there that all have water issues down that end of the neck too. So it's not just us that needs supply. Of course, we're here for that, but we want to make sure that our neighbors, get involved in it too. So.
Thanks, Rob.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, could I just ask that everybody who's from Turnaway stand up?
Okay.
Thank you.
I know within the past few weeks, we had made a request to begin a process of looking at some options. Can you maybe give us an update as to where we are?
The manager may as well. I did attend last week the Water Commission's meeting to fill in for Councilor Susi. And I've talked in the not too distant past with the director about what their concerns are. Frankly, their concerns are that they can't afford to sink in. I think the number was 8 million. Am I correct?
I don't know if I've seen a firm number that sounds a touch high, but I'd say it's probably in the minimum of a $4 to $5 million range.
I thought I saw. Is the director here?
Yeah, Ben's there.
Way back. Could I ask you to, is there, I,
No, I'm glad that you
Come
did.
on
Yeah,
up.
come right up. I didn't see you sitting back there. Hi, Ben.
Sorry, I was hiding in the ferns. So, you guys all know me, Ben Crawford, Superintendent of the Water Department. So we have heard the concerns through City Council, through Councilman Susie and Cheney at the meetings as far as what's going on up there. It is a large undertaking as far as financial. I mean, I think the number that we had that we've given you, I think was 6.8, and that was to bring it from the Weirs via Hilliard Road all the way down and put a tank up there, as well as an interconnection to the Long Bay tank, Southdown Long Bay, because we're trying to make a loop out of the whole thing, basically is what we're looking at. Because if you bring a line from Weirs Beach all the way down Hilliard Road to supply 21 homes, you would have all the capacity you would need, but then we would have issues with water turnover. You know, we'd have hundreds of
Right.
thousands of gallons in that pipe that would just potentially sit stagnant through the time. With more development, obviously, that's something that could be a good thing for the city, for the water department, for everyone. But to just bring it there for 21 or 31 homes is going to be a potential issue. Not that that's something that you guys don't need. I understand that completely.
So you're looking at an option that is a loop, so you can keep the water flow moving, so we're not pumping water out because it becomes stagnant, correct? Which is
Correct.
one issue. And that's a $6.8 million investment, you think, to do the loop?
Roughly, and that's with no land acquisition easements, anything like that. So that's still going through the forest. That's getting an easement at the top of the hill by Pedal Pushers Farm and the private lots up there to build a tank. There's a fair amount of, extra costs that could be associated with that. That's more of the actual infrastructure to get it in the ground, the pump stations, the tank, and then pressure reducing to bring it back down to go down the hill to Southdown.
So what's the traditional, how do you deal with cost recovery on a capital investment like that ordinarily?
So ordinarily, the water department does not front the cost for that, so we don't have a lot of experience with that. If there is someone that is, say, at the end of a line or outside of our scope of where our infrastructure is now, the cost is borne by the developer to bring the water there. They sign on a contract with us that we've now changed to a 10-year payback. Some of them were 20 back a while back. We've seen that that's been too long. So there's a 10-year payback period that if somebody, within point A that they started from to point B where they ended at, if somebody wants to tie on in the middle, they have to pay back their fair portion on that line. The water department has not historically paid for these extensions for that. I believe there was one over to the airport area in Guilford that was, as we know now, is just, we're having the same issue there. We have a 12-inch line that runs through Hillcrest up through the PSNH easement, and that's where it dead ends at a hydrant. And we have to flush that one fairly consistently to keep that turnover up there.
if I may, is it, would it make sense to, in discussing the loop, to continue down past Southdown to the state school property, which I suspect may need some water in the not too distant future? And I don't believe I think they have their own water system, if I remember correctly. So we would have to put water in there as well.
Correct. So the state school previously had their own pump system, their old tanks at the top of the hill, which are now not connected to Laconia water at all. We have a gravity fed system to connect those first two. The Doobie and Dwindle buildings are on city water. Everything past that is not. If they were to go any higher in elevation there, they would, again, need pumps and tanks. Looking at elevation wise, if the state school, say they were to build here and put a tank and a booster station, it would not have the capacity to move up the hill to Turner Way. However, if there was a tank built at the top of the hill, you would have the pressure to come down to the state school. You may have to reduce the pressure because it may be a little too great, but it would be a pressure reducing valve station is a lot.
But it might be helpful with the state school
Yep.
build out.
Yep.
Yes, where I'm going.
Ben, have you had any discussions with the state in regards to the development of the tract of land across from Robbie Mills on Meredith Center Road, which has been identified as a spot for the new E911 and mutual fire aid?
I've had a couple very brief phone calls with someone, I believe it was Oak Ridge man, someone that was doing the engineering or planning over there. We haven't gone any farther as far as, tanks and dollar amounts and piping and all that. It was just kind of a general, this is where our water is currently. That's where your lot is. And that's where we've
But if they,
stop.
obviously, if they, I mean, they would have two choices for water there, correct?
Yep.
Either their own private well on that tract of land, right, which it would be deep and costly,
Correct.
and maybe not as plentiful as you might anticipate.
If I might, Mayor, I believe my recollection is the reason that Doobie and what's the other one? Dwinell are on city water is because the system that was there was failing. The
Right.
tanks were starting to fail. We were getting a load of rust through the lines, et cetera. So we can't just start their system up again to do the Robbie Mills or the lot across the street. They're going to have to find a source of water, either dig another well, or they're going to have to get city water. Fact remains, whoever buys the development rights to that is going to have to use city water, I think. And I guess my point here, and Director, if I'm wrong, please correct me. In the short term, we can help Turnerway and others up there, but it has the advantage of helping us a few years from now when the state school property starts to develop. And as I've said to this council in the past, I think this is infrastructure, not a water line. And I've told the director I feel this way. I've told the commission, the Water Commission, I feel this way. This is a city issue. And to ask the ratepayers to pay for all this new construction would be prohibitive. But for the city to do it on a city basis and recoup its costs. I mean, I don't think we should do it without trying to recoup our costs, but get them Turnerway and Southdown and the state school property and others. I mean, there's a lot out on Maris Center Road that I suspect would like it. So I just want the council, and I hope the director agrees, that there's beyond putting a tank on the top of the hill to fix Turnerway's problem, there's a greater ultimate need that can be helped by this project.
Yeah. So we have the betterment program for roads. So why not use that type of program, even if it's a hybrid part of that program where the city pays part of it and the people that are going to be using it.
Listen,
on the other
you
part
heard
of it.
those folks. They don't want to beat they don't want to do it for nothing.
No,
They
that's-
don't want us to give us everything. And I don't think developers are going to want to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, I agree, some sort of program
Mhm.
to give them some hope of seeing water in the not too distant future would be warmly received by them and appreciated by me.
Councilor Lippman.
Just wanted to ask the superintendent, do you see any way to meet DES and provide some relief? Because all the solutions that you're talking about are ones that will take years, not weeks or months. And, the development of the property there could happen, sooner than the rest of the construction. Is there any way to get to the cistern issue in a compliant way? I understand there may be people here with experience with DES, but is that something worth running to ground? Is there any way to circumvent the limitation of being able to use it in a system, and potentially, is there a way to build multiple cisterns that puts it into a different classification that may be cheaper to accomplish?
Yeah, I don't know enough about that as far as, kind of a smaller water system, kind of a private small water system. Excuse me. But I would imagine that if there was a larger capacity, maybe they would be able to use those deliveries or have a larger delivery at a larger interval of time. So it wouldn't be, every 6 weeks the truck's rolling out there. Might be every 6 months if you had more storage capacity. It's just a matter of, I would think, where you would put it. I'm assuming these two are either in a building or underground, the two underground. So to build, larger underground tanks.
I guess I would suggest, in terms of the spirit of trying to be helpful here is to try to run to ground some other solutions, because even if we said, yes, we agree, put the money up, it's gonna take a long time. And I'm hearing you in terms of what the difficulty is living there with, the water situation. We've got plenty of water. It's just, it's getting it there. That's we're fortunate compared to other parts of the country to have plenty of water. It's a matter of getting it to the place where we need it.
Who are the experts in this area? The problem is clear.
Yeah.
The options are, we've only got a couple really, right? I mean, as far as drilling or additional cisterns or pulling a line through Hilliard Road and up there. Who are the experts in this state or in this region that can take a look at what we're facing right now and give us something that's, of course, timely and cogent as far as what the options are to solve this issue? I would, like any of these complex plans, I'd rather have a solution in play. Complex problems, I'd rather have a plan in place and a solution that sort of lays it out, and then we can get the estimates to consider what options work financially speaking, if not practically speaking, for the residents of the area.
I would say at the state, at DES, the Drinking Water Groundwater Bureau, which by chance, they're actually going to be here Thursday. We have our sanitary survey, which is our once every 3-year inspection, basically. So I could certainly bring it up on Thursday when they're in town, because they're going to walk through our entire plant operation, everything like that. So we could bring it up to there's 2 of them attending with that and been in contact with others. So we could certainly ask the question, just in conversation when we're there is, this is a situation that we have in town. What might be some options for that? And then, keep the ball rolling from there with them involved.
And as much as I value the work at DES, I certainly would like to figure out, is there someone in the private sector too that's
Okay.
that can weigh in on this as well? And as we all know, DES can present some real challenges at times, and
And timeliness may not be the.
yeah, right. And this, we don't have a decade to sort of work on this. I think time is of the essence.
Get a preliminary report.
And again, that's just the nature of that department. If there's someone in the private sector that we can potentially consider a consulting contract with in the city that can lay these options out in a more timely manner and give us options faster, so we can pursue something here, so these folks don't wait a decade. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've already did the studies with Emery and Garrett. If we have the information, we could forward it to you. We could have Gail send it to you.
I think that would be really appreciated.
We paid for it, so it's good.
Thank you.
And Joel Frisch too. We've had interactions with him, and they're both in, I think, Meredith. Right? Both in Meredith.
Hey, come on, Rob, if you want to come on up, just so we can get it on the record and get it on. So.
Yeah, I'll get the emails.
While he's coming up, can I just ask, Director, if next month we gave you the money or we provided. Let me get to the end of the question.
Man, you're a free spender.
Just assume that the money, you may notice the manager starting to turn a little gray.
You mean red?
Assuming the money were available and we said, all right, let's get this project on the road. Have you any idea how long to get from Hilliard Road where it is now up to the top of that hill and in a tank ballpark?
Ballpark, I would say 2 years minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Mostly materials at this moment. It'd be a year before you get the pipe here in Laconia. Never mind installing.
Yeah,
But your answer also would have to include getting, you said, right of
Easements.
ways and easements,
Yeah.
and those can take time too.
yes.
Yep. Rob, what were you going to add? I'm sorry.
So we've had the studies with Emery and Garrett. They do water studies nationwide. They actually testified in Congress about water issues like this. We went through it. We've had many meetings with them. We paid for the studies. We have all these studies that we can forward to the group or whoever's email you can give us. I'll give it to Gail. She's here. She can send all the information to you, because it's all good info about the water, about the situation, about the solutions, which is in the future would be city water. And Gail's already applied for a grant to get the engineering started or investigated on getting the water there. So and that is, I think, $10,000, Gail?
It's a $10,000 interconnection study grant through DES.
So we've applied for that, which is hopefully going to come through, which would save everybody money also.
So perhaps I saw Ben hand out a card to Doctor. So if you can push that along to Ben, Ben,
Okay.
you'd be kind enough to share it with the city manager and he can disseminate it to us. And but I'd like to pursue this from two different angles. DES, it's got to be a partner in this to some extent, but if we've got a little something in the private sector that can move it a little faster, I think we should pursue that. I just don't think waiting a decade is the right thing to do here.
And also, just to add to that too, we, in our meeting with Jamie Emery, he also said to us that there's money available to help us, hopefully through DES. We're going to try to apply for that also. We don't know what that involves yet. We're just starting that process.
Okay.
Tom Willis. Okay, DES. So just to let you know, we are working forward to try to get more monies also to try to help with this whole situation.
All right, Ben, after you meet with the folks on this week, would you see if there's an opportunity to follow up and schedule a meeting with the city manager and
With DES.
yeah, DES to just let them know what we're up against here and why it's so important to us. And if you can let me know that, or the city manager will say, and Councilor Cheney, I'm sure would be interested. Councilor Susie would be interested in attending at some point here.
And just to reiterate too, we're not, I mean, our neighbors need water too. It wouldn't just be
Yeah.
21 houses,
right,
we're talking
right.
hundreds,
Right.
you know, to get on the line. So hopefully it would be able to use a little more of that, power.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Ben, thank you.
Ben. Don't go hiding in the ferns again,
Yeah.
okay? Yeah.
See if you can get out of here alive.
No, was there anyone else who'd like to speak to this matter in here tonight? Come right up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mike Duskowski. I'm 101 Turner Way. I'm a new resident to Laconia. We bought our house a year ago. So we did not know about these water problems when we bought our house. Needless to say, my wife and I are a little disappointed. However, this is the place we moved to retire. So we have our plan to stay here long term. I did take the enjoyment of reading the 2018 master plan that you all put out. And in that plan, Hilliard Road looks like the place where the most development in that area of town is going to take place. And so I was curious and wanted to reiterate the fact that when I looked at that plan, that side of town has 34% of the undeveloped land in Laconia. It's not just about us. If you can develop the frontage on Hilliard Road and develop continued frontage up in that direction, you'd be bringing a lot more tax revenue to the city. And, my hope is that over time, this is going to be just not only a solution for us, but ultimately a solution for new residents up there in mixed use type of residential, houses and apartments.
Nice to have you here in the city. I'm sorry you've had to encounter this when you got here. But thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I have good neighbors that are looking into it, so.
Try to speak to that. So we've actually looked at some of the available lots and who property and who owns it out all the way up Hilliard Road and then obviously down Parade Road. And a fair amount of the property is owned by a few individual property owners. And then there's also a fair amount that's in conservation or state forest. And there also are some challenges with some of the topography of this land out there. So definitely is a wide open swath of land. Additional cost, if you're talking about in the master plan and expanding through Hilliard Road, then it's not just running a water line. Now you're talking about building a road through there. And then ideally, do you want to be running sewer or planning for sewer while you're mobilized there? So a $5 to $6 to $7 million water project. One of the reasons that Ben spoke of is in extending it all the way down to Southdown, which doesn't need water, is to avoid that waste, because the real challenge with water is you need to size a line based on the number of hookups you're going to have to it. And right now, if you had Turner Way and Windermere Heights, 50 or 60 homes, if you're sizing it and trying to avoid waste, you've got a very small pipe there, which doesn't handle your future needs, and that doesn't make any sense. So there's added cost to bring it to Southdown, a lot of added cost, but that helps, reduce the waste and the spillage and the pumping area to it as a solution. I'm not sure, and we don't have to decide this tonight, if a tank on Hilliard Road actually goes all the way down to the intersection of Merida Center and then back up, because you've got quite a climb to get there. And what this probably more likely, what storage tank gets built on the state school property is what would be feeding Merida Center Road and down. So yes, there could be more houses coming online, but there's and the challenge with building sewer now with so few hookups is different than the water. You don't have enough flow. And now you have material going into the sewer lines that isn't moving because of lack of flow. But again, you need to size it for future use, just not for what you need it today. But it will take some other property owners to want to make some kind of a commitment on Hilliard Road or Parade Road to come in and say, we're willing to develop, and what's their time frame. But it's also constructing a road and the infrastructure on Hilliard Road if you're trying to pick up that development, because it's obviously not going to occur as a dirt road or a gravel road. Someone's going to jump in and say, yeah, let's do this type of thing. So a lot of moving pieces to it. But yes, when you look at the master plan, it does identify that section of the city as being the area with the most open land. But it's also got quite a price tag to pull all that in there. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's quite a price tag when you're looking to do it right and not just run water now and be back there in 10 years digging up and mobilizing and now trying to put sewer into it again. So just a few things, just so everybody kind of thinks the big picture here.
Councilor Cheney, go ahead.
If I can add, and I don't disagree with what the manager has just said, but I would also point out that from the planning board perspective, or the master plan, perhaps, it's recognized that the growth in that area is largely stilted by the fact that you have to have 2-acre lots, which suddenly drop in size with water and drop even more in size if sewerage is added to that. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. There are the negatives or the difficulties, but some of the difficulties are created by the fact we don't have water and sewer up there. So I hope to see some effort to at least start this process and recognize it as infrastructure, not a water company problem. I hope we can talk about that some more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak before we move on from this agenda item? I don't think, for those of you here for this issue, I don't know if we're going to reach any conclusions tonight, but I certainly appreciate you showing up, speaking up, and I think everybody up here takes this problem very seriously. And again, we realize that we can't just kick this down the road. Time is of the essence to try and figure out some solution here, and I think we got to get some options on the table first and foremost. So thank you for coming. We'll move along to item number 15. It's the mayor's report. Keep this.
Let's see if there's comments for anything other than Turner Way.
What's that again?
Any
Oh,
other
yes.
comments?
This is for.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Are there any other comments tonight? Not in regards to Turner Way?
For items not on the agenda.
Can I speak about that yet?
That is on the
Yep.
agenda.
That is, it's an item that's on the agenda, so that will come up shortly. We'll move fairly quickly. Anyway, under the mayor's report, following up on an email from the city manager, 2 emails over the past 6 weeks or so in regards to working on a flag policy here in the city. It's been certainly brought to our attention that it's probably a good idea to have a policy and something that we should work on. So I'm going to ask the government operations and ordinances. You couldn't help yourself.
I'm
could you?
not on it. He is though.
I'm certainly
I
working
am.
on-
I think you have a lot of homework.
I'd like to put that issue in your committee, and Scott and I have talked about collaborating with Walter Mitchell and his team. Certainly bring some experience to this issue, we believe, and perhaps can start us out with a little guidance and maybe get something in draft form if it comes to an ordinance here or a policy, a written policy that we have, or if there's an option to have flags that are not right out in front of City Hall or hanging off
Right.
City Hall might be an option as well.
Finding some other location, yes. It was one of my council comments tonight, so I'm looking forward to moving.
Likewise. Okay, thank you, Counselor Cheney. I wanted to let you know as well that Eric Adams and I have been working right along on this homelessness task force. I know he's reached out to each of you to talk about sessions in each ward of the city. It looks like, I think it's going to be definitely one, and then based on interest. And certainly feedback from you counselors, whether there'll be a second session in each ward or not. It just depends. And there'll also be one for the business community here as well to talk about this. We've also been carrying on some discussions. And the name of the housing stability, it's a DHHS. Yes, yeah, I can't think of the name of the bureau right now, but we've also been reaching out in regards to working out the DHHS in regards to some programs that have been in place, some opportunities for us to maybe avail ourselves of, as well as I've been in contact with Granite United Way, and they were looking for communities for a pilot program in regards to the housing instability and homelessness that I might have some more information in the next couple of weeks to share with you about the pilot program and gauge our level of interest in it. But certainly I want to let you know that there are things that are moving here. Not as fast as we'd like them to go. That's for certain. That will conclude my remarks this evening. I will open this up to council comments, please. Sorry, I haven't paid attention to you on the screen there. If you're raising your hand and I haven't called on you, Bob, Councilor Susie and Councilor Hamel, I apologize. Anyway, council comments, Councilor Felch.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that the Levitt Park 99th Levitt Park Carnival is coming up on the 20th. It's from 3 to 6. But if you know anybody that wants to give us a hand, we need help with the games and setting up and breaking down, give me a call.
Thank you. Councilor Cheney.
Thank you. I may well have missed this, but Councilor Lippman, did we finish the welfare reorganization, or are we still?
I think the manager and the finance director asked for a time to bring it back, a new edition of it, and work from that as opposed to working from where we were.
Okay.
And I think that got sent out about a month or so ago. We can resend it again, but Glenn and his team did a comprehensive rewrite of it. And we sent it back out. So we know we had a few other things in the works with some of the other committees of more pressing items, but that is out there, and we'll resend that just to make sure it's at the top of your email list.
So we'll schedule a meeting then to pick that up.
Any other comments, Councilor Cheney?
Yes, I did. And this is not something that we can deal with quickly, but I had the experience, I suspect other councilmen had the experience, that you put signs up somewhere on city property on the edge of a road somewhere, a town road, and a day or two later, the signs are gone because the Public Works Department is enforcing the ban against those signs. Now, there are signs about draining septic tanks and carnivals and car shows that sit there for weeks, but political signs seem to disappear. The state, however, allows us to put our signs on state roadsides as long as we meet a removal time frame. And so I was wondering if the council might consider looking at what the state requires for state roads and roadsides, and consider whether or not we might be able to write language a little more a little more lenient for council sign. And if you look around, there are signs everywhere. And I just, some get taken down and some don't. And I was thinking maybe we could look at it and see if, and I don't know what committee that should go to. Don't tell me it's
Government operations and ordinances, I encourage you to do so. I don't think you even need to convince us. You
Why
just go
is the
right ahead.
manager snickering in the background? I think
I
that's
don't-
inappropriate.
It's got poker face.
Yeah,
It's
right.
fine.
Finally, the last thing I want to bring up tonight was brought to my attention, and this council may have done something about this, and I slept through it or whatever. But the Mount Washington is celebrating its 150th year. And I thought maybe we could make a proclamation or do something to congratulate the Mount Washington and
That's a brilliant idea, and it falls under government operations and ordinance.
yeah.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilor.
Go
Lippman.
ahead, keep going.
I know that the political signs are being referred to your committee, but I'm not sure you're accurate on the law with respect to state. So I guess I'd ask that we just get that checked in before you start your work.
I thought we would have to look and see what the state requirements were, but go to Elm and Parade Road and you'll see 100
village.
signs.
It's village.
On 3 corners.
I
Or
just-
2 corners. The 2 that are stateside are full of stuff, and the 2 that are on the city side, the Elm Street side, are near naked of signs. So I'd like,
So I just want to chime in a little bit, and I know this has been a hot button topic, and I have worked with our public works team, and we've actually scaled significantly back on touching signs, only the true egregious ones, like something in the middle of the island in Veterans Square, that's going to get taken down. Everything else we've said, if it's a gray area, let it be. People don't know where the right of way is and where their property is and that type of stuff. For the intersection at Elm and Merida Center, the 2 lots that get all the attention are vacant lots and have no houses on it. The 2 on the other side, somebody owns and lives there. And if they don't like the signs there, they're going to go remove them or not give permission in the first place. So I don't think that has anything to do with it being the state side of the road or the local side of the road. And we take all the signs, but we don't touch them there. You got 2 houses on 2 corners and you've got 2 vacant lots.
well, as it happens, one side of Elm Street is not a house. It's a turnoff and a cemetery. The house sits back a ways, and I don't believe they own out the Parade Road. Be that as it may, I agree with what you said, and Wes has been much better about how they handle signs. The year that I lost signs, they were up in the Weirs at the sharp turn on, is that Shore Drive or Shore?
Yeah.
Anyways, you know where I'm talking. The next year or the next cycle, that didn't happen, as the mayor suggests. All I'm trying to say is maybe we ought to straighten that out so that when Wes leaves or the city manager leaves, we don't come up with a different interpretation of what we're supposed to be doing.
So there is a song about that. I want you to learn it and sing it next time. I hear.
All right, okay, well, not tonight. Councilor Cheney, is there anything else you'd like to add this evening?
Not a chance in this world. All the beating I'm going to take for.
No. Councilor Lippman, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
No, Councilor Hamel, hello, welcome.
You're mute.
Hear you.
Bob.
You're muted again.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go right ahead.
And I'm not from the other company. There's been some, the New Hampshire Chronicle in the last month or 2 has been up here twice now. And they've been videoing for a whole week. They did the Colonial Theater. They were in there for a whole week. And then I believe it was last week, they did the Rails and Trails at the railroad station. And they spent a whole week there discussing everything. And I just think that it's a great thing for Laconia to have that televised everywhere. theater and the bike rails. So kudos to Laconia. Things are moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Hamel. Counselor Susie.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. Moving right along then to committee reports. Counselor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Works Department, in regards to trash contracts, has met twice, and the figures haven't changed. The situation hasn't changed, and the council has it before it tonight as a subject for discussion. So unless there's some magical numbers out there, nothing's changed with the committee.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. Any other committee reports or liaison reports?
Oh, I have a liaison.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. The Heritage Commission had a wonderful presentation from Wayne Hackett in regards to the United Baptist Church. It's not going to be a parking lot in Lakeport. They are going to have, moving forward, they're going to start fundraising. They want to save the church itself that's on the historic register. It's a wonderful presentation. It's about 15 minutes. And I would suggest that if my colleagues would like, it's a very informative presentation that he gives. And as we move forward, and that's going to be another issue of another building they want to save, I would recommend, if my colleagues are interested, that we hear from Mr. Hackett.
Thank you. Moving right along to item number 19 on our agenda, which is citizens' requests to comment on current agenda items. So this would be, if you're commenting on a current agenda item, now would be the appropriate time. Come right up. Don't be bashful.
Harry? So that'd be the garbage thing. My name's Harry Bean. I'm from Guilford. Is that the garbage?
Yeah, that's an agenda item after this, so you can speak to that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Welcome.
You know, I know there's been untold number of hours and who knows how much money spent on trying to figure this thing out. And I've got a question. Let's say your house is right there where you are and your garbage can is right here. Right there, that little calendar is. And I drive out around the side over there and I'm going to visit the counselor right there. I park right here. Now your one-armed bandit comes flying around the corner. My car's there. You can't reach your stuff. You can't reach your stuff. Now you guys got it all figured out so that there's just barely enough garbage cans to sustain the garbage from a household. So he can't get that. So is he gonna call the cops and have the car removed? Is he gonna go around it and leave it there? The question is to you, sir.
Well, I think this is an opportunity for you
Okay,
to comment,
never mind.
not
Okay,
question.
so
Okay.
my point being, the garbage gets left there because there's no way he's gonna get that. Because my car's in the way. So he's gonna take off. Now, what are you gonna do with the garbage there next week? You still got that garbage. Now you got to put that garbage either in your house or over beside the house where it's going to look really, really good. There's several of them around town already. We need a couple hundred. But so you got that, you got your full barrel, you got your full allotment from this week that didn't get collected. So next week, you put out your new garbage and your garbage that didn't get collected last week. They ain't going to take that because now you got too much. So what are you going to do with that? Not a question to you, just a question to you. Okay, so this isn't just an apartment house thing. This just isn't going to work. I mean, unless there's no parking on any of the roads in the city. If you can park anywhere around the roads, and I think you can, and you're parked in front of that garbage, what do you do with that garbage next week? It isn't just tenants. If I've got a 4-unit apartment house or a 3-unit apartment house, and I got 3 garbage cans out there, 3 or 4, and somebody parks there. Now I got all that extra garbage. This thing, you know, in certain places in the city where some of these people live, that
isn't quite reality for the rest of us. You know, the fancy dancy places and all that good stuff. You know, none of this is going to happen. But most of this city, this is going to happen and it ain't going to work. And when the garbage is everywhere, anybody that votes for this thing, I'm going to know whose fault it is, and I will publicize it. Thank you for your time.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, councilors, good evening. Scott McWilliams, 61 Pearl Street. I'd like to take a moment just to speak in favor of the automated collection system. I think Public Works has shown that there is a clear savings to the city. And it appears to me there really aren't too many options. I don't know why you would want to continue with a manual collection system that's going to cost more than the automated system that's been proposed, and the city has the contracted numbers to consider. So that's one thing. The second thing is these totes that they use for this automated system, they're sturdy, they're durable, they have a hinged lid on them. You know, when I walk around the city, I see a real hodgepodge of trash bins, many times no lids, overflowing. They're not sturdy. They tend to get blown around. I've had neighbors' trash bins blown into my yard, particularly during the winter months when we get a little wind around here. So I would be 100% in favor of adopting the automated waste system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on current agenda items? Once is good. Come on up, Steve. Once is good.
Hi, Steve Laughlin, 49 Audrey Lane. Before I disagree with Wes Anderson, I'd like to say, Wes, you guys did a great job on Audrey Lane fixing the sinkhole. Thank you so much. They do a great job. I have one question and then a comment. The question is, if this thing passes, what happens to the recycled program? Are they picked up by a automated system too? So we have two different garbage cans? Okay. My last comment is, I would respectfully request that you do not do the automated program and that you look to continue what you're doing now. If the current company does not want to do it, I would ask that you find another company that would consider doing it so that we don't have this automated program. Thank you. And thank you for your service too. We just disagree on this one thing.
Any other comments for items on tonight's agenda? Step right up, sir.
Timothy Minor, 135 Academy Street, property owner in Laconia. In the perfect world, your garbage cans are going to sit flat on the ground. In the winter, your cans are going to be elevated up. The arm that comes down to collect these cans must fall all the way down before it collects it. What's going to happen when the can's elevated on a snowbank? It's not going to be able to pick up that can. When it's up that high, you guys going to clear all the snow, every storm from every street? It's just another.
Sherry Minor, also 135 Academy Street, 132 Court Street, 142 Church Street, whole bunch of places. All these places in the city, just like he said. So there's no homeowner at 132 Court Street. That's on the city street. Many times it spills over now. Those cans gets kicked over. They're walking by drunk, kick over the trash cans. Then what? Now you got all these people that you got to pay to go pick up this garbage. Because if you come at me and say it's my garbage, and when the garbage can's out too long or whatever it may be, I'm gonna have an answer for it. That's not my garbage. Prove that's my garbage. You're not going to be able to prove whose garbage it is to come after us all to figure out whose garbage is left floating around in the streets. And you guys are just going to be picking it up because it's too much of a burden for us to go pick up all the extra trash that's going to be left over from this. And like Harry also said, on the days when they're blocked and they can't get to it, I mean, that's gonna be a huge disaster. If you get 2 cans and then now all the trash is left out. Even at my house, I have one house with 4 adults in it. Sometimes I have to go to the dump myself because I have more trash than what I'm even allowed at my house. I mean, it just is gonna cause a lot of financial burden, not only to the city, I think in the long run, after you see all the aspects of it, but a lot of headache and a lot of financial burden. It may seem cheaper, yes, in this little small picture, but in the far picture, it's not going to be.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else like to make comments? Items on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, move along to item number 20. Oh, sorry, I didn't see somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah. That's on the agenda, and so now's your opportunity to speak to that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
Might
okay.
want to pull the
Well,
microphone down
first
just a
time, so
hair.
I'm confused. My name is Elizabeth Gleason. I live on Garfield Street in Laconia. I have 2 goats at my property. Long story short, my daughter is very severely allergic to cats and dogs. She can't have the normal animals that every child in this world can have. So we have 2 goats that I've raised as my own. They are babies. We don't feed them. I mean, we don't use them for food. We do feed them. We don't use them for food or anything like that. They are our pets. They are our family. They have 800 square feet to run around. We clean them every week. We wash them twice a month. We just want to be able to change the agriculture wording to be able to have people to have pets like this at their house. Not chickens or anything like that, obviously, because they can be a lot more noisy and not as clean. But I'm just asking that you guys do change that. So, you know, little girls or boys like my daughter can have the responsibility of raising something and loving something that they normally wouldn't be able to do. So,
My big disappointment is you didn't bring the goats tonight.
I would have loved to. And they are super quiet. Like the dogs around my neighborhood are so much more noisy. The person that goes around and takes pictures literally had to come to my house 5 times to even realize I had goats because they're not smelly. They're very quiet. We did put a fence around my neighbor's yard so they can't see them. Only one of them has a little bit, but he allowed us to. And before we even moved there, we did ask all our neighbors if it was okay, because we are those neighbors that want to make sure everybody's okay with it. Everybody in my neighborhood loves them. It really wasn't a problem until somebody else wanted chickens and couldn't have them and then said something. So I just asking that you guys can maybe change that wording so my little girl can keep her pets.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Sure.
My name is Maria, and I live right next door to Elizabeth, and I see the goats once in a while because she has them all the way back in her lot. Nobody can hear them and nobody can see them. And they don't even make that kind of noise, you know, they're really quiet. I just want to let you know that because they are good, really good.
She
I have
feeds them, right?
2 Yes.
Okay.
I have 2 dogs and they just sniff over there and they don't even bark at them. They even play with them, each other, you know, they run back and forth. It's a good thing for the little girl. It really is.
Thanks.
Just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
I do have pictures if you guys want.
Oh, pass them around. We love pictures. Yes. All right. Any other citizens' comments on current agenda items?
I don't know if I'm considered that. I don't know what I'm on like 21A. Is that like what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Come on up. I didn't see you hiding there. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Kristen Bastille. I own Defiant Records and Craft Beer, and I'm just here to talk about the car show that's Thursday and answer any questions and hope to get your approval. I got it from the planning committee already. So
Thank you for coming. I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for all that you're doing to the downtown area, this sort of like fun stuff that you're hosting, and really appreciate it. So
thank you. Yeah, I love it.
good. Thank you.
Thanks. So
Good.
good. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Hello, I'm Robert Mayo. I own property at 88 Garfield Street. I'm a neighbor to the Gleasons, and I'm here in support of them keeping their goats. My kids love them. I've got 3 young kids, and they all love the goats next door. They don't make any noise. They're not a hassle. If you didn't know they were there, you wouldn't know. So I'm just here in support of that.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Samantha Doucette. I'm here from 212 South Main Street. My property is also in the back where the goats are. And I'm here also to say that I would like to have them keep the goats. My family also enjoys them and we love them. So thank you.
Thank you. You've made quite an impression with your goats. I would say that, right?
I would have brought them if I could. They walk on leashes.
I'd like to ask her to come up to my house. I got 4 goats and they make more noise than a truckload of. But they're farm goats, so they're quite a bit different. But maybe you could come up and work on mine. It would.
Hi, Al, would you like to speak?
Well, I just wanted to say that those goats are not bothering anybody.
Come on up right there. You got a microphone. That's all right.
My name is Alan Raper. Me and my wife own 72 Garfield Street. Those goats have had no problem whatsoever. Like my wife said, the dogs go over and play with them between the fence. They do not make noise. They do not smell. And they take care of them quite well. I mean, honestly, the yard is always clean. We don't have an issue with it. They're pets. They're not farm animals. You know, for this little girl. This little girl cannot have a cat and she cannot have a dog. She's allergic to them. She's tried to play with my dogs and she's just, I don't know what, she sneezes and starts breaking out. I mean, and she can go over to these goats and there's no issue. It's for the little girl. I mean, we're not out to hurt anybody. She's not out to hurt anybody and those goats don't bother us soul. And I just wish you'd change the way things are so that they don't have to keep being threatened to get rid of the goats.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else, let's move along to item number 20, City Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be brief and keep us moving here tonight, but you do have the financial and operational trends report in your packet for this first meeting in August. The very top item is the building permit value. Again, assessing year, as you heard from Steve Hamilton last week, begins April 1st, runs through March 31st. So we're a couple months into the assessing year. We're at 20.8 million in net new value. That puts us on a pace of more than $1 million ahead of last year's pace, which we ended up in that $49 million range, which was the strongest number that we had seen in a while.
Can we have just a little quiet back there? The voices come up front here, that's all. Thanks.
They could go outside.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For all of the other numbers, we just started the new fiscal year, so July 1 kicked in. So everything from motor vehicle registrations, boat registrations, property tax collection, we're 1 month into it. Nothing jumps out as being any kind of concern or an issue at this point. We did have one grievance with the fire department, which the chief denied. They brought it to me. I have denied it. I'm not sure where we stand exactly in the window for them to appeal that decision, but it dealt with 2 firefighters who had not renewed their EMS licenses on time and therefore were not eligible to work once that license lapsed. Anyway, the boat taxes on page 5, again, off to a strong start for July, rolling in there. You can see the balances for all of the reserve accounts, the TIF accounts, and the EMS billing history. One thing I've asked Chief Biotti to do with his team is with some new legislation that was just signed a couple of weeks ago. It did increase the billable amount for Medicaid reimbursement. So I've asked the chief and his team to just put together a simple report and identify what that looks like for Laconia based on the percent of calls that are not either private insurance, that are Medicaid calls that aren't Medicare, that aren't private insurance, and what the increase in rate does, just so we get a sense on what that might look like in additional revenue coming into our EMS program over the course of the year. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions anyone might have.
Scott, any questions?
Just one quick.
Yes.
Scott, do you have any dates as far as paving Addison and Durkee?
We're shooting for August, but really depends on construction schedules.
Yeah, we're still in August for that. I was going to look to see if Ben was still here, but no, I do know the the roads out in the weirs. Did they start that last night? So they started the Route 3 paving from the state project from the roundabout at the weirs heading towards the Meredith roundabout. And I know they've done some of the preliminary road work in the area of the intersection of Elm Street and Meredith Center Road to be going out everywhere, starting at Lexington and heading out to the traffic circle there. But I'll check to see if
Fair
we
enough.
can confirm that up on the.
Yep.
On the
Thank you.
streets for
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to item number 21 on our new business. The first one is 21A, which is the temporary traffic order 2022-10, define records and craft beer together with Lake City Body. Is that Auto Body or Lake City Body? Auto Body. Will be presenting a classic car show in the downtown area on Thursday evening, August 11th. The event will run from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. In conjunction with the event, the organizers are requesting the use of a total of 56 parking spaces as shown on the attached parking plan. I didn't get a parking plan by some chance.
Neither did I.
Neither did I.
So maybe,
We will get that to you.
Okay.
I believe the spaces are intended to be on Main Street in front of Defiant, so across the street. And then depending on how many cars are registered, they're going to use an appropriate number of spaces in the Main Street parking lot. But there's no other activity going on outside. There's no beverages or anything occurring out on the street. It's just those where the cars will be done. So, and working with the business owner, once we get a good sense of, since this is a first time event, how many cars she's expecting, we'll look to put the cones off and the appropriate signage there. But it's pretty much, I think, around the corner on Canal and a few spaces right in front of the store in Main Street in the Main Street parking lot.
thank you. There'll be no street closures for this event. right?
Absolutely not, no.
And the organizers of the event have contacted most local downtown businesses, and those businesses that were contacted all gave their approval and support for the event. So the traffic order states that which states that reserving of the parking spaces will begin at noon, although the event itself does not begin until 5 p.m. The spaces that are being requested are 2-hour parking spaces, and posting them beginning at noon will allow for ample notice to the public and will ensure the spaces will be available when needed for the event. Note, the city manager reserves a right to reduce the number of parking spaces reserved if the applicant is unable to provide the special events review committee with evidence that the requested number of parking spaces will be utilized for the event. So right now, I'd be looking for a motion to approve temporary traffic order 2022-10 for the Red, White, and Brew Fest Classic Car Show to be held August 11th, 2022, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. as presented pending approval by the Special Events Review Committee at their August 3rd meeting.
This was a carryover from the last agenda that we didn't have the quorum at, so that's why.
So has this been
Yes.
approved? It has been approved already. All right. So I'll be looking for that motion. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes, excuse me. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 21B, which is the first reading of ordinance 2022-235-41:N, amending chapter 235 zoning, section 41 to add a new section N relating to agriculture in residential zones and request to schedule a public hearing. So this amendment to the zoning ordinance will allow property in the residential, single family or residential general zones to have a maximum of 2 sheep or 2 goats. This would be allowed by an administrative approval, which could impose certain conditions to be followed. This would be an exception to the current agricultural definition. The amendment would also clarify to allow certain small-scale agricultural uses in the RS and RG zones. So the staff recommends that the city council discuss the proposal and schedule a public hearing and a second reading for August 22nd, 2022. So I'm looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of this ordinance in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
I'd like to.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. I got involved in this. Obviously, you know the circumstances, but I think this family followed the letter of the law. They applied for a variance. It went to the zoning board of adjustment, who heard the case. It was on a vote of 3-2. I would have not gotten involved in it had it been unanimous. In going and looking and reading, the terminology in agriculture, that probably might have fit for 1960, 1970. The year 2022, it doesn't. As I read it, there could be questions about someone in RS and RG even having a garden because it's not allowed. So I think this has to be, there needs to be some flexibility here. I understand that this might cause some turmoil and it might open, we certainly don't want Laconia to become Old McDonald's Farm, but I really think there has to be some flexibility. And I'm not by any means taking the zoning board of adjustment to task. They were absolutely right in their findings because of the terminology of agriculture as it reads in the ordinances. So I've worked with the Gleasons. I have sympathy that these are little girls' pets, and they're not farm animals. They do not have any agricultural products. There's nothing other than the fact that they are pets. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Felch.
Yeah, myself, I think this needs to go to committee first.
Okay, so instead of going any further on this, you would like to see it go to committee for a vetting of the definition of agriculture, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Counselor Littman.
So I have a question of the city forbearance on doing anything here while we work through this matter. Is that possible?
Regarding the goats. So I think it was stated by our planning director, and Dean is actually here, so he can speak to it as well. That is, as long as there was a process moving forward to review this and possibly modify the ordinance, that city staff would be taking no immediate action pending whatever outcomes that happen at the council level. Is that accurate? So
I would support Councilor Felch in terms of usually the committee work ends up being something that's helpful to the whole.
So we're inclined to send this to government and the ordinances, I believe, right?
Yes.
I quit.
So
Hey, I'm on that committee
procedurally
too.
speaking, that's our intention. We have a motion and a second. Yes. Oh, Counselor Hamel, yes.
You're mute, Bob.
Sorry about that. I am an animal lover through and through. I've worked up at the Baldy Farm for over 40 years with all kinds of different animals. If we all recall, this council, maybe the previous one, within the last 2 years, we got into it with chickens in Lakeport. Now, if we go down this, and I understand the little girl, I feel, you know, it's not a good thing, but they've already had someone approach the city because they have goats, they want chickens. Now, this is going to open up a can of worms like we've never seen here in town. And I truly believe that. You're going to get people from all over that are going to want to at least have chickens because they provide eggs, and eggs cost money. But as Mark said, he doesn't want Old McDonald's Farm. I think that's what we're going to end up. And now I hear they're going to allow sheep. You know, I don't mind us going to a committee and have it hashed out there. That's probably the best place. But if you think there's no one that's going to come, and apply for this, I think there's going to be thousands. You got 16,000 people in this city. I'm not sure the number of homes, but there's probably 8,000 homes that can have chickens. So, or a sheep. That'd be interesting. So I'm in favor of this to go to committee and to really look this over to see the path you want to go down. Because once it's set, and anybody can apply for a variance or whatever it is for chickens, sheep, and goats now. And whatever else is going to come down the line. So think hard and long about this one. Thank you.
Hey, Councilor Hamilton, so I think what we'd like to do is procedurally back out of this now so we can refer this to committee. We've got to go.
So if you do it to committee, you absolutely can do that. I would just urge that the committee meet timely on this and very timely, because again, the zoning board has taken a position on this and staff is holding, any application of that decision pending this. And then if and when it does come back to you here, you still need to have a first reading and then refer to a public hearing 2 weeks later. So time would be of the essence for this committee to meet and move this aggressively.
Okay, procedurally, I want to back out of this motion and second. Now, how do we do that properly?
I just think you look for whoever made the motion and the seconder to agree to withdraw their motions at this time.
Would you agree to withdraw your motion? Would you agree to withdraw your second? Yes, thank you. Terrific. All right, so I'd like to refer this item to the Government Operations and Ordinance Committee. All right.
So as soon as you get back, Bob.
Mr. Chair. Moving on to item number 21C, which is approval of the city manager agreement as was released, the information being released within the past week or so about the city in response to Scott Meyer's pending retirement from the city of Laconia. Will be hiring current fire chief Kirk Beatty to become the next city manager. I believe I speak for everyone here. How fortunate we think the city is to be able to have you become our next city manager, Chief Beatty. Certainly you distinguished yourself in such a way during the written portion of the application process and the oral portion. You were clearly head and shoulders above the other candidates from my perspective. And I think it's also fortunate the city has a working relationship with you already. You don't need to introduce yourself to folks around the city. And certainly you have what I think is a very good working knowledge of ordinances, city operations, as well as the tax cap. So congratulations. Thank you for your interest in remaining in the city. I think it means an awful lot to all of us. Just briefly on the employment agreement that we're looking at this evening. This is for a period of 3 years, commencing October 3rd, 2022. There was also a renewal portion on that, so there will always be 2 years in place with the contract. The salary is $140,000 a year. After a 6-month review, introductory period, there may be an increase of up to 5% will be awarded above and beyond the base salary. City manager will be accruing leave at a rate of 2.083 days per month. The city manager will have access to whichever program, health insurance program, the city makes available to municipal employees. And the city manager, the city shall provide retirement benefits to the manager equal to a 7% contribution of the manager's annual salary to a 457 deferred compensation plan. Those are some of the highlights, if you will, of the contract, which I know you all have had a copy of right now. And so we'll be looking, I believe, right now to have a motion and a second to approve the contract as written. So a motion by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Lippman. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Did you raise your hand, Counselor Hamel, to speak? Did not, okay. All right,
No,
see-
I raised to vote on it, so it's all right.
Okay.
Roll call.
Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Lippman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch,
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes, and congratulations again, Chief Beatty. Moving on to item number 22, which is our unfinished business. Has to do with item 22A, City Council decision on the method of curbside solid waste collection for the period beginning October 1st, 2022. City's curbside collection contract with Casella expires on September 30th, 2022. Just briefly, you would want to take us through this at maybe a 10,000 foot level, Scott, just a
Sure. Thank you,
quick
Mr. Mayor.
synopsis.
So the city's gone out to bid several times over the last 12 to 15 months, looking at for both manual collection, automated collection. The last time around, we went out to bid specifying both manual and automated. We had only had one bid on that. The difference between an automated collection and a manual collection is about $270,000 a year, with it being more cost effective to go the automated route. We also looked at what it would cost in-house for city staff with buying equipment, having to deal with the mechanical issues, having areas to store the vehicles, clean them out on a daily basis. Again, find the staff, which is challenging right now. Having a backup truck, if you will, because if we have a truck go down, we certainly can't start missing collection days. And that also encompasses especially in the summer months, doing the pickups in a smaller truck in all the areas of our parks and city hall and beaches and those types of things. And we found that it was, the city could not do it as cost effectively as the low bidder was. The request before you tonight is to make a decision between a manual collection system and an automated system. Our contract with Casella is up on September 30th, so they need to know if we go an automated route, they'll need some lead time to order the trucks to get those in place, because they generally don't have those waiting around to go into the workflow, if you will. The next steps would be looking at the toters, size toters for recycling. We'll certainly work with all residents, especially our senior citizens and those who are disabled, on making sure we size the toters appropriately on the recycling for them, and even the trash for their needs. We do know that on the $270,000 difference between the two, the city, if we go automated, would have to make an investment in purchasing the toters. General thinking, depending where the interest rates come and the exact number of toters that we need, is probably going to be in the area of a $70,000 to $80,000 annual expense over a 10-year bond for those in order to roll that out. The city is also committed to do a significant amount of public outreach videos, how-tos, to address some of the concerns that were raised tonight about cans in proximity to objects, which don't necessarily have to be cars that came in apart. It could be a mailbox. We also sent out some videos to all of you and put it in the last 2 newsletters that show this system working in Massachusetts in the winter, and that in one of the communities in the county near Buffalo, also utilizing it. Winnipeg. So there's plenty of cold weather climates where it does work successfully. Even down the road in Franklin has an automated system. And while I don't know that intimately, I'd like to think that they've got similar road setup and challenges, just being a neighbor of ours down the road. So hopefully that's the 10,000 foot view. If you
So might be open to a couple of questions before we consider. A motion.
Absolutely.
So Council Lippman.
I think probably what I'm going to say is more of a form of a statement. I think at the end of the day, I'm not voting for this to go to automated, and I want to explain why. I think that the numbers that the manager prepared and with the team I think are in the ballpark of what we're talking about in terms of savings. I think that, was, adding in the cost of the totes, I think is reasonable. I think where I come down on this is that it can be done, right? It's being done elsewhere, but the issue is sort of the externalities that it imposes upon people. For some people, there may be no impact of what they need to do, but for a lot of people, there is going to be some impact in terms of how they have to deal with their day. And when you spread that cost of approximately $200,000 across, the hassle factor with what we've all had to deal with in the past couple of years, I think it's not the right thing to do. I think there are other considerations. One that was brought to my attention was about, it may not be feasible for some people to maintain this kind of structure. Then if they have to incur additional costs in the rental market, then, we talk about trying to promote dealing with homelessness issues and keeping tenancy. If we end up opposing a cost, you can say, well, they can just pass it on rent. It's not so easy to do that these days. Again, I'm not against automated collection in of itself. It can be done, but I just think, people have been through enough hassle, enough issues. The savings is not significant enough when you look at what it's going to do for other people. And for some people, as I say, it won't be any issue. For others, it is going to be an issue. And I commend the work that the department did in terms of redoing the numbers and looking at all the alternatives. Again, I think if we were talking about a much bigger number, I'd feel differently about it. And if I think differently about it, if there was no externalities imposed upon the citizens. And so I guess I just want to make my position clear to start. I know I'm probably not on the prevailing side of this, but I did want to speak, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Council Lippman. Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I said before, the committee has looked at this and looked at this and looked at this. In a sense, I agree with Councilor Lippman. I think there's a learning curve involved in this, and it also involves something that we human beings don't like, and that's change. From a perspective, I find it hard to tell my constituents that we're going to spend $300,000 on a situation that a year from now or 2 years from now may not even exist. It's a wonderful thing to say, oh, we'll just have it manual and we'll pick it up. So what happens when whoever, and I don't know where these magical people come from that's are going to bid on this, but what happens when Casella, if they're the contractor, comes back and says, sorry, guys, we don't have any help anymore, so we can't pick it up manually. We're going to be right back to where we are. Like I said, I agree with, in some respects, with Councilor Lippman, but that's $300,000. We can fix somebody's road. That's $300,000. We always hear that the Parks and Recreation needs new equipment. We need to update our handicap accessibility to the parks and our infrastructure to our parks. And those are just a few of the things that we talk about, but we don't seem to ever have enough money to afford these things. So if someone else has any magical solution, I'd love to hear it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Haynes. Councilor Susie.
You're muted.
You look great, but we can't hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. The other thing I'd like to bring up with this, and if I'm out of line, somebody can correct me, but I know we've had some discussions that along with this, we have to make some changes to the ordinance in regards to number of cans that we want to put out for residents or apartment buildings and those kinds of areas. That'll also help some of the cost. But if this continues this way, I agree with Henry. I mean, $300,000 is a lot of money, not counting what it's going to cost us for interest payments and all for the totes over the next 10 years. But my biggest concern, and I know the city manager and the rest of the council is very well aware of it, because I made it very clear, especially at the committee meeting, is the senior citizen. I know that, as most of you know, I spend a lot of time away from home sometimes, but my wife, to try and put that barrel out there at winter time or anything else like that, is going to have a very hard time. I've always talked about, and I know the city manager and the public works director have said continuously, they're going to really push hard the education of our citizens. It's not the apartment owners that we've heard from tonight. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the regular residential person and from the taxes the residents pay. I've always said, yes, I'd be in favor of the automatic. Boy, I just don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Littman.
I just want to clarify the dollar amount we're talking about here. I think from 300,000, then netting down from 300,000, the cost. So we're talking about between 190 and $200,000 and net savings. And what Councilor Susie said in terms of, again, for me, it's not going to be any issue either way, but because I can handle what I need to handle. But for other people, it may not be that way. It may create a hassle factor. And as when you divide 190 or $200,000 into the tax rate and say, I'm going to be paying this much more, but I'm taking on this other burden. That's I think the issue that you make your vote on.
Counselor Hamel.
Thank you. I believe I'm unmuted. So Scott, what is it? Are we actually gonna save money doing it manually? The way Henry just said, 75,000?
No, 190 to 200,000.
Saving.
No, the cost to do manual will be, like Council Lippman said, $190,000 to $200,000 more every year, and that factors in the cost of purchasing the toters. Under either scenario, if you look at what you approved in the budget versus what we spent last year, under either scenario, our solid waste budget is going up fairly significantly. It would just go up $190,000 more than that with the manual approach.
Okay, so obviously, I'm talking, Bob. Obviously, we went out to bid 2 to 3 times on this. It was bid once just for automated, and then we went out again to do both, and the same contractor bid. And to do manual, it's another 275 to 300,000. That's this year. So depending on how long the contract is, manual is going to go up again if he can find somebody to do it. Which seems to be they're having a tough time. Otherwise, it would be offered. So, the part about other cities doing it in that's all fine and dandy. Franklin has snows, Franklin has senior citizens, and I've talked to somebody that brought that up to me. So does Rochester. They have snow, they have senior citizens, and they seem to manage. I got an 88-year-old friend that has automated pickup along the beach, in beach area. He has no problems bringing it out. They have bigger wheels supposedly. And, it's, sometimes you got to vote to get off the fence. I know it won't be popular. It's something hard. It's a change. Nobody likes change. Nobody likes reverse angle parking. Tell you the truth, I still don't do it. But, it's, if I can save the taxpayers $300,000 this year, next year, or what the years in the outcome, that's a lot of money. And to maintain what we're doing when the industry doesn't want to do it. Like I believe Mark said, at some point they're going to say, too bad, we're not doing it anymore. You got to go automated, and this is what it's going to be. So why just push that can down the road? We could we can be into it for a year or two, and you know, I think it's going to be like the reverse angle parking. I've heard nothing bad about it. I've heard no accidents, nothing. So let's just not push the can down the road. I think everybody around that table knows what to do, which is the right thing. And it isn't something I'm thrilled about either, but the accounting makes sense. And, you know, stacking cans on the snow bankings and all that kind of stuff. I've been through Franklin so many times in the winter, and I've seen none of that. So, you know, just, you know, we need to think about this. And I know what the decision is, and I hope most of you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Hamel. Counselor Susie, did you have something else you'd like to add?
Yes, I'd like to add one more thing, and whether it's part of this discussion or will be very soon, would be the discussion that's come out of committee, I think, or even at this council, about redoing the number of trash cans on households in reference to apartments.
Okay. Any other comments, council comments on this at this time? Questions or comments for the city manager?
I have a question. Could we ask Wes to give us a kind of an overview as far as what he sees coming down the road as far as increases are concerned? As far as, I'm not talking about automated or manual, but I'm talking about the use of the landfill, what's going to happen at the source recovery area. Yeah. Thank you, Wes.
There's basically four sites that we can take our trash to. The incinerator down in Pembroke Bow area. Turnkey, which is in Rochester, that's the waste management. You've got a little bit of room left in Casella's up in the Bethlehem, that area. Then you've got the Androscoggin Valley up in the Berlin area. That's it for open ones that are open to any municipality. Landfill space is tight. If Casella doesn't get an additional site permitted, that one closes. So you only have the 3 sites left, and then Massachusetts is closing its. So what you're basically happen is you now have landfill space or disposal space as commodity. So those prices are going to be coming up, and that's what really drove a portion of the problem that we saw this year, is that the incinerator wanted a $10 a ton increase because they could get it, and they were not willing to negotiate it. And we got a little bit of a better price from Rochester. And so we're going over on the 1st of January, changing to Rochester. And that's for this. We basically signed a contract for fixed prices for the next 7 years. And we know what increases are each year. It's commodity spaces, or the disposals becoming commodity, and it's getting tighter and tighter.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at increases, not just with pickup, but we're looking as we go down the road as far as transportation. We're looking at, so when we talk about 200, 300, that's today's money.
That's today's money, and that's just for collection. This is increases that we've already seen and are going to program for, and that was why we had the fee increase that took effect on the 1st of July that covered the additional cost of transportation and the additional cost of disposal.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there's anybody else.
So I think there's been things that we've done that, you know, we've maintained the tax cap and been able to do a lot because we've tried to find opportunities to save money. And I think a lot of those opportunities, take example, when we replaced all the light fixtures, the streetlights with a different type of bulb, right? That was really pure savings, better lighting, a win all the way around. This one is different than that. We're talking about $190,000 to $200,000 delta in terms of the different approach. It very well could be that over time it proves to be right. We can't get anybody to do it manually, but what's different about this one is that, again, the factors that apply to the people who see it as a hassle, and that's what it really comes down to for me. I think we've had enough hassles as a community with just the way life has been over the last couple of years.
All right. Any other questions or comments at this point in time? Okay, so seeing none. What's been on the report submitted by Wes Anderson, Director of Public Works, there's a recommendation of an approval to convert to an automated curbside collection system. So I'll be looking for a motion right now to move that the city council approve the conversion to automated curbside solid waste collection with a proposed start date of no sooner than April 1st, 2023. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion of this matter? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
No.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
You're muted, Bob.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. I'd like to adjourn the city council meeting at 8:51 PM this evening.